Minisforum's AI X1 was a mini PC with premium features, and now we're looking at the slightly cut down light version. And by slightly, I mean very slightly. The biggest noticeable difference is the case design, and Minisforum has switched the case material from metal to plastic, but the build quality remains solid. Oh, and the AI has been thrown out of its name, even though it's the same mobile CPU, which is an 8-core, 16-thread AMD Ryzen H255 with Radeon 780M graphics. Basically a refresh of a refresh and a crappier name than before, which was the 8745HS. Included with this one is a compact 19V 120W power supply, VESA mount, HDMI, and power cable. There's also an M.2 to Oculink adapter, screws, and spare rubber feet. All this can be yours for $663 for the 1TB SSD, 32GB RAM model. Yep, that's a price increase compared to similar specs last year, thanks to the worldwide DRAM shortage. Or if you happen to have some DDR5 stowed in memory and an M.2 NVMe drive lying around, you can get the bare bones model for less than half that price at $312. On the front of the X1 Lite is a power button, dual USB-A 10GB, 3.5mm audio jack, and clear CMOS. Inside is a MediaTek Wi-Fi 6E for wireless and Bluetooth. On the back is a 2.5GB LAN jack, HDMI 2.1, optional Oculink port which sacrifices one of the M.2 slots if you decide to use it, USB 4 40GB with power and display, DisplayPort 1.4, and dual USB 2. Alright, let's open it up. So here we have 4 glued on rubber feet, the nightmare that never ends. Minisforum still insists on using them. Underneath are 4 screws, then lift the lid, and we're in. This one features 2 M.2 Gen 4 X4 slots, one for the 2280 Crucial Gen 4 SSD, and the other for a second drive, or the M.2 Oculink adapter, which is what I'll be testing later on in the video. 32GB of ADATA DDR5 5600 is included with this pre-build, and everything is cooled by a fan, while the SSDs also get thermal pads for added cooling. Windows 11 Pro is included with the X1 Lite pre-build, and as has been the case with every Minisforum Mini we've looked at, it's virus and malware free. Ubuntu works okay apart from wireless. MediaTek Wi-Fi chips are hit or miss with Linux, and this is one of those times where it doesn't work. Damn it. Alright, we've looked at this CPU and its variants for a couple years now, but we'll see how the X1 Lite holds up against a couple other Ryzen H255 minis, starting with Cinebench single core, and the score is what we've come to expect. There's very little separating the minis in the middle of this chart. For multi-core, the X1 Lite takes the top spot from the H255s, though again, there's little separating them, and with performance mode enabled, it gets another small boost. Geekbench single core has a similar result as with Cinebench. While in multi-core, the X1 Lite is one of the better performers. Video encoding is up next. First benchmark is with a short H.264 video encode, once again a good performer. The much longer AV1 video encode shows that cooling is up to snuff, with the X1 Lite taking first place amongst the H255 minis on this chart. Nice. Doing the same encode with the iGPU helping out has the X1 Lite matching the other H255 minis, although performance mode came back with the same result. Next up we have the Geekbench AI CPU test, and it shows all 3 H255s to be very similar with their best results. While in the AI GPU test, it is behind the Beelink SO9, which did exceptionally well. That's not the case in the 3D Mark Firestrike benchmark, where the X1 Lite is the best performing mini PC with a Radeon 780M on the chart. But when you look at the differences in the numbers, there's so little to it that it doesn't make any difference really. Which is clearly shown with the TimeSpy result, where it isn't on top but very close to the other results. Although, that being said, there is another tiny win with Steel Nomad, so that's cool. Since there's a big disparity between the CPU and GPU performance with mobile chips in workloads like gaming, the iGPU will be the bottleneck in nearly every case. And while the Radeon 780M has some decent 1080p gaming performance, it struggles with newer AAA titles. FSR isn't going to save it. That being said, many esports games play well. On the AAA side, the frame rate is pretty good in something like Cyberpunk 2077, even with no upscaling. But try something requiring more GPU performance, and the FPS is unplayable even at 1080p low detail. And FSR won't help much in this case. So that's why some choose to hook up an eGPU either through the USB 4 or Oculink port. And here you can see the difference side by side with Oculink's superior bandwidth providing more frames in most cases. The H.255 chips are also very capable for emulation. Most games at 1080p will run full speed from the PS3 and Xbox 360 generation. Minisforum's X1 Lite has a good result when compiling code, with it matching the other top H.255 minis. The Adobe Photoshop result came back a little lower, but nothing to be worried about. While the Adobe Premiere result is fine out of the box, performance mode didn't add much to it. The included SSD came back with a pretty average score, but for most usage cases, you're not going to notice. Interestingly, the SSD came back hotter than I expected, but didn't thermal throttle during the storage thrash test. At 5 meters or 16 feet, Bluetooth range is pretty average, and I'm glad to report there were no issues with the wireless at 12 meters or 39 feet from the router tested using the 5G band. An idle power draw of 9 watts is good, while the maximum hovers around the 100 watt mark from the wall, and performance mode adds a bit more. Cooling in this mini PC is impressive, with a maximum CPU temp kept under 90°C. In fact, it peaked at 85°C with performance mode enabled, and that's much better than most. However, another aspect of cooling is fan noise, and I'm happy to say the out-of-box balance mode recorded below average fan noise at load, while the performance mode is much louder and not worth a small performance gain. When it comes to its overall volume, the X1 Lite is one of the bigger mini PCs out there at 0.84 liters. Mashing the delete key on startup will get you into the BIOS. In advanced is the power limit setting. ACPI has wake on LAN. Hardware monitor lets you set the fan speed manually. AMD CBS MBIO common options has the GFX configuration settings where you can set the VRAM limit. By default, it's at 2 GB. Set it to at least 4 if you plan to game. FCH has the AC power loss option, and SMU common options lets you set the power limit manually. Alright, let's polish this one off with the mini PC checklist. Minisforum's X1 Lite is made of plastic, and the price isn't the most attractive for the pre-build thanks to the current RAM and SSD prices. But that's not going to change anytime soon. There's a compact power supply and plenty of features, except dual LAN. Glued on rubber feet is an automatic disqualifier for being easy to open. While 2 storage slots are included, one needs to be sacrificed to use Oculink. Unfortunately, Wi-Fi doesn't work with Linux. Performance, CPU, and component cooling is good. There are no problems with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi range. Idle and load fan noise is low, as long as you stick to the default balance mode. Like most Minisforum units, this one didn't pass the audio latency test for audio production. I can't guarantee there will be BIOS updates, but Minisforum does release some from time to time on their specific product support pages, along with driver downloads. Minisforum is also one of the few brands to include a longer 2-year warranty than the standard 1 year, which is nice. So that's the Minisforum X1 Lite, a good mini PC with little to complain about. The biggest downside is that Oculink requires one of the M.2 slots, but everything else is pretty good. So if the X1 Lite ticks the boxes, find it linked in the video description. Anything purchased through those links helps the channel out at no cost to you. Oh, and do you want even more performance? Well, I recently did a review of Minisforum's MSA2 workstation, which you can find right here. Cheers!